Me a Library. So today's book that I'm reviewing is Because You Love to Hate Me by 13 various authors and bloggers. So something wicked this way comes. Leave it to the heroes to save the world, villains just want to rule it. In this unique YA anthology, 13 acclaimed authors team up with 13 influential booktubers to create tales from the often misunderstood villains' points of view. Prepare for spins on the classics you think you know, and dark insights into new tales. Read of the heartbreak, vengeance and pain that it takes to bring down an angel and make a demon. No fairy tale will ever be the same again. So there's 13 authors and 13 booktubers. So what I'll do is I'll put below me here all the authors and all the booktubers. Each booktuber gave the author a subject that they wanted them to talk about, and they then created a short story about whatever it is that the author wanted. So one of the stories is called Medusa Go, and the author just has to write about Medusa. There's no time setting, no time frame. Medusa could be a male. It's whatever the author wants to create, but they have to go with whatever the booktuber has asked them to do. So there's 13 different stories. I'm not going to tell you any more than that. I'm going to give you my top 4 stories that I loved, and I'll go into detail about them. So this is going to be spoilers, because I don't want to go through every single story and spoil every single story for you, and we would be here for quite a long time if I went through every single story. But just to give you a quick synopsis about the book, it's done in a way where each story is very, very different to the other, because the booktuber will do a response to each story, and each booktuber does a different way of, they have a different way of doing a response for it. So the first one, for example, the challenge was by Christine Rico's, and it was to Renée Ahdieh, and it was called The Grandson of an Evil Hierarchical Dictator Who Tried to Rule Over the Universe Wants to Follow in Her Footsteps and Accidentally Loses His Temper, Killing His Sibling in a Game of Chess. So that's all the author had to go on. They then created a short story based around that, and then the booktuber will have their own spin upon it. So this one is called Evil Vaccine, Keep the Darkness at Bay, and this one basically is a, do you need the vaccine? Are you a villain, and do you need it? If you do, this is what it takes to have that vaccine. This is what it takes to need that vaccine, and then they sign it. So it's like a sort of an advertisement. And then each story will be different. There's ones where they actually just talk about the story and whether they liked it or not. There's ones like that. There's ones where it's like social media that's like up to date. So yeah, they're all very, very different. 169 pages. It was published on my birthday, the 11th of July this year, sorry. There's 13 authors. It's by Bloomsbury Children's. It's a YA fairy tale sci-fi fantasy classic kind of book, because it talks about the fairy tales that were before, and it's various worlds and various times. I did rate it a 3-star, and in my rating system a 3-star is not a bad book. It's only because I kind of expected more stories that we know to have a spin. There was more made up stories than there were original stories. I imagined stories like The Evil Queen, imagined stories about Maleficent, and you know, I imagined more of these kind of stories, Rumpelstiltskin, those kind of things, but there was more made up stories. So for those of you who don't know my rating system, it's 1 star is poor, 2 stars are okay, 3 stars is not a bad book, 4 stars is I really liked it, 5 stars is amazing, and if you get a love heart, I loved it. I might change it around to do cups of tea to make it a little bit more me. So 1 teacup is a poor book, because it only took me 1 cup of tea to finish the book with, and obviously if I loved it then it's unlimited amounts of tea, so we'll think about that. But yeah, I really like the idea of this book. It just it lacked those characters that I wanted in the book, but it did give me some inspiration for my next videos for you guys, to actually have like a what the fairy tale originally was and how it's told now. Like The Little Mermaid is actually a completely different story to what you know from Disney. Hans Christian Andersen actually created a darker, more twisted kind of story. than the one we know, so it is very different. So it's kind of made me want to do something like that. If you like the idea of that, let me know. If no one lets me know, I'm still going to do it because I really, really want to do it and it's really exciting. So yeah, look out for that. Okay, so back to this one. Top 5 favourite stories was Shirley and Jim, Medusa, The Sea Witch, and The Gender Flip God of War. So I'm going to read you a little bit about those ones and why I like them and the format of what the story was, etc. So turn away if you don't want to know the spoilers, but if you do, then continue to watch. So Shirley and Jim. So this was written by a Susan Dennard, and the blogger, the YouTube blogger that gave the challenge was Sasha Ausberg, and all she gave was a young Moriarty. Now, for those of you who don't know who Moriarty is, he is Sherlock Holmes' villain. He's somebody that in all the stories, or most of the stories, is the opposite to him. He's well, the villain. So in this one, Shirley and Jim was written in a letter format. So it was a letter from Shirley Holmes, who's Sherlock Holmes, to Jean Watson. So it talks about her and what she's doing. She's at college and talking about what she wants to do, law and etc. And she meets this guy called Moriarty, and called James Moriarty, and she starts to fall in love with him, and there's a connection they have. They both play chess in the library together, and he's very, people don't really know much about him, he's very secretive, he's just joined, and yeah, it's quite good. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't really want to spoil it for you, but I really like the idea of it being a letter, because Sherlock Holmes is very, well, he's a detective, he's very good with figuring out things, and this is quite good because Shirley isn't like that yet. She's got that in the back of her mind, but she's not like that. She's not figured out what she wants to be yet. She wants to do law, which is what her father wants her to do, but we all know that Sherlock Holmes becomes the great detective that he is. So I like that it didn't start off like that. I like that you got to see what Shirley was like, what Sherlock Holmes was like before, and why they became who they were, and it was because of James. James is there for a different reason. He's there to find something, and once he finds that thing, he's going to go. But he doesn't quite explain what it is that he found, or that he wants to find before he leaves. So yeah, I really like that idea. Jean Watson's in it, obviously, because she's writing a letter to them. But the blogger does a 411 for villains. So Sasha's decided to do like a letter thing herself. So these villains will write a letter to her, and she'll give them a response, a bit like an agony aunt. One of them is, I've been struggling with my criminal mastermind lifestyle, not because I want to go on, not to become one, but because whenever I try to do something evil, well, I get caught. She then replies, you've got yourself in a pickle, haven't you? It's sure a bummer when you can't do what your heart desires. Something you need to remember is that we will have to start somewhere and learn from our past actions, etc. And then finally, she gets a letter addressed to her from a James Moriarty. Dear Sasha Marie Asperg, I know a lot about you. I've been studying you for a while through this forum of yours, and let me say I'm impressed. But I now have some tips for you. When you're submerged in this criminal underworld, everyone is your enemy. You help those sorry excuses of masterminds become who they strive to be, but in the meantime, you are helping them gain an upper hand. You are breeding criminals. You are making them your equals, when really you should be degrading them, tricking them, and making them more of an ant under your shoe. With your hand feeding these men and women, they will one day come back to bite you, and who's to blame? That's correct, you. With the internet at our fingertips today, it seems too easy to get to what you want. I learned the hard way. It all started with manipulating a few peers as a young lad. They were the puppets on my string, and it has escalated since then to my now empire of deception. Don't get me wrong, girl, I do appreciate your efforts, but in my world, you are the ant, and I am the shoe. This is no threat, just advice from one mastermind to another. He's been playing this game far longer than you've been alive. Best regards, Professor James Moriarty. Sasha Alsberg has signed off. That was good. I like that one. The next one that I liked was Medusa. It's called Beautiful Venom, and that is by Cindy Pon. And Benjamin Alderson's Villains Challenge was Medusa, go. That's all he said. Okay, so this Medusa is done in a very different way. This is a lady that is now going to marry this man, and she's very beautiful, she's desired by all, and she has this secret admirer that likes her, but she's not too sure because obviously she's got to marry this emperor, etc. And something happens, and before you know it, she's been cursed, and now she is Medusa. So that is the summary of that story, although it is a lot more detailed and a lot better than what I've just described. But I love Medusa. I've always loved Medusa. She's someone in Greek mythology that I've always wanted to know more about, because I've always kind of felt sorry for her. Because I know that Athena had this thing with her, and there's many stories. One of the stories is that Athena cursed her because she was in love with somebody that Athena was in love with, or it's because she's been saying that Athena was this, Athena was that, and that's why she cursed her to be ugly. But obviously only Athena knows, and so does Medusa. Okay, and Benjamin then did a Without the Evil in the World, How Do We See the Good? He then talks about Greek mythology, and he talks about Medusa and Cindy Pon's version. He then talks about his favourite part and line, the favourite character, the most memorable moment, the hero's twist, the issues that are left unopened and how he felt about that, and in conclusion. So he basically just describes how he feels about it and what he liked about it and whether he liked it or not, and I really like that. And there's two stories that I've just spoken about. They would be like 4 stars, 5 stars, because they were really, really good stories. It's just the overall book that got the low rating. The next one was The Sea Witch. So The Sea Witch was by Marissa Meyer, and she is the sole reason why I bought this book in the first place, because I really loved her Lunar Chronicles and Heartless, and I'm really looking forward to reading her new book, which I have right there, which I haven't actually read yet. For those of you who don't know about it, let me quickly show it to you. Long. I haven't actually had the time to read it yet, but the text is really good, so hopefully I will be able to read it a lot quicker. This is called Regenades, and this is by Marissa Meyer, and I'm not going to read you about this one, okay? But when I do my review, I will go into detail about it. There's probably reviews up about it now already, because I'm probably really slow at reading this one. But I've had loads of other good books to read. That's probably why I haven't got started reading this one yet, but I'm really excited for that. But yeah, she's the sole reason why I bought this book in the first place, and I have to admit, she didn't let it down. She wrote something so amazing that I kind of wanted her to just complete it and to finish the story and to carry on and to write the Little Mermaid's version. So the challenge that she had by Zoe Herbs was, what if the Sea Witch had previously been in the Little Mermaid's shoes but decided to kill the love interest and turn back into a mermaid instead? So she basically gave the Sea Witch the Little Mermaid's shoes. So she introduced King Titan, she introduced the kingdom, she introduced Medusa, she introduced the prince, who wasn't actually a prince, but she introduced her story, why Ursula is how she is and what her history was, because there's many stories as to whether she was the king's sister, or whether she was the king's love interest, or she was just a sea witch. But also it tells you how she got her octopus feet, legs, tail. So yeah, it was going to be really good like that. So Zoe did a villain or hero you decide part, where she spoke about whether she believes that actually the Sea Witch was evil, or whether she was just hurt and upset. She then asked to find out whether you are a villain or a hero. So I'm going to ask you the questions, and I would like you to answer them below. So what would you do? You're travelling on a path when you pass an old woman begging for food. She looks hungry, but you have only a small loaf of bread and need something to eat for the next day of your journey. You, A, keep it for yourself, you need the food for energy, and you're sure someone else will come by with food for her. Or B, give the woman your food. You don't know how long she's been without food, and you can find something when you get to your destination. 2, after a teacher leaves the room, you notice that the answer sheet is on the next test, sitting at the edge of the desk. You, A, Take a look. If your teacher didn't want you to see it, why did she leave it in plain sight? B. Close your eyes and flip it over. You and your classmates will have to pass or fail on your own. 3. You were offered the opportunity of a lifetime. Unfortunately, you take it. You will hurt your friend's feelings. You A. Take it. These opportunities don't come around every day, and your friend will understand. If they don't, will they ever really your friend? Or B. Turn it down. Friendship is more important than opportunity. What's successful without someone to share it with, right? 4. You are walking, you stumble upon an ancient spellbook that teaches powerful dark magic. You read it, you might not use it, but it's good to know just in case. B. Give it to the proper authority so they can destroy it. No one should have access to something this dangerous. And 5. Like Neredit, she's Sea Witch, your true love, or so you thought, betrayed you after you risked your entire life to be with him or her. You, A. Return the favour, as they will soon know you are not to be messed with. B. Move on, creating more pain won't solve any problems. So if you got A, you're mostly A's, you're a villain. So though you may not feel the urge to go on a crime spree, you possess all the tools you need to become a serious villain. Some may call you selfish, but you think that you really are just looking out for yourself. Just bear in mind that some stories are fiction and villains in real life face real consequences. And mostly B's, you're a hero. Welcome to the club. True, you might not always get your recognition you want or deserve, as you're busy looking out for others, but people can rest easy knowing that you're always there to help. So I actually got more hero, but I did get quite a few villains in there, so I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so the last one that I loved was the gender flip God of War. There was one in here about Beauty and the Beast, which I really liked as well. So if I had a top 5, I would have picked that one. But that's only because I love Beauty and the Beast. Okay, so this one was called Syrah, and this is by Nicole Yoon. And the blogger was by Steph Sinclair. And hers was Gender Flipped God of War. That's all she asked you to do. So this one is about how Ares and Athena were born, and Athena basically got the glory and was seen as the beautiful child, etc. But when the other daughter, okay, in this case Ares, she then started to cause anger. It caused her parents to split up, it caused friction between people and everywhere she went, and she didn't seem like she was actually her mother's daughter, because her and her sister were very, very different. And then she started to get very, very ill because she was keeping in whatever it was that was making everybody angry, until it got to the point where she just let it go and exploded and turned into fire and killed her sister Athena. So yeah, that's basically a summary of that. So Steph Sinclair and Kat Kenny were the bloggers, sorry, there was 2 of them. So they did in this male-dominated world, everything is hard as a woman, especially when you're trying to crush the world under your fine pair of sky-high stilettos, combat boots, or whatever type of footwear you find best for disfranchising humanity. Struggling to claim domination over the huddled masses is one thing, but struggling with body image, self-image, interpersonal relationships, and even when you fit in with the world is another. So whether you all like the God of War like Syrah, or if you thrive on chaos, or mortally ambiguous event like us, or you feel good guide, our feel-good guide for villainous is here to help. Dive in and be ready to answer the question, who's the baddest of them all? So it talks about the body that's going to conquer hearts and minds, what do you wear, no cakes, like egg and mould. Then it talks about, it's humble pie, you are not pie. Nobody puts villainous in the corner. And yeah, it basically just gives you a little bit about being a woman and being a villain and girl power and all that kind of stuff. So yes, so yeah, I told you why I gave it a 3-star, because the stories in it were really good. There was another couple that I liked. I'll read you the titles of the ones that I did like. I liked Gwen and Art and Lance and the Bad Girls Hall of Fame, which was about King Arthur, Lancelot and Gwen. I liked Marigold, An Evil Revealed, which was about the Earl Queen and her taking the young children to her kingdom, and it was based around Queen Victoria's time, and her daughter Alice got taken and replaced by a girl called Marigold, so that was quite good. And then I liked the Indigo and Shade, which was about Beauty and the Beast, and about how it's got a twist to it. Beauty and the Beast are not who you think they would be. So that's what I'm going to say. So yeah, that's my review on this book. 3 stars out of 5 and a heart. I did like it, and it's worth you reading, but bear in mind there are some stories in it that I didn't really like, and quite a lot of the bloggers, I didn't like what they said about the book. There was one about how Hades wakes up in a well in Ireland and his death, and I really liked what the blogger said about it. They spoke, it was like a letter to death from them, explaining why they don't like death, and I really liked that one. There was quite a lot in here about Greek mythology and myths, and Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid to me are kind of related to that because they're stories that have been told before. There was a Jack and the Beanstalk one, but I think it was the ones mainly that weren't stories, that were made up stories that I didn't particularly like. I prefer the originals for the spin. So yeah, that's my review, and I'll see you guys next week for the next one. Bye!